There is a fleeting moment, subtle, silent, almost invisible, when a woman decides, without words, that she wants someone. It doesn't happen when he confesses his feelings, when he pays for dinner, or when he floods her with compliments. It happens when he masters the invisible art of tension. Not the tension of effort, of trying too hard, or of seeking approval, but a deeper current. One that hums beneath a single word, that lingers in the rhythm of a sentence, or clings to a touch just half a second longer than expected. Most men don't fail for lack of looks, wealth, or charisma. They fail because they're obvious. They say everything they think. They show everything they feel. And what is fully revealed is quickly discarded. The modern woman is not aroused by predictability. She is captivated by uncertainty. She craves the emotional puzzle. The man who makes her pause and wonder, what did he mean by that? Was that flirtation or just kindness? It is within this sacred space, the gap between certainty and doubt, that sexual tension is born. It is where ordinary men vanish and true seducers come alive. Nietzsche once wrote, "What is done for love is always beyond good and evil." But what of desire? The kind that speaks not through declarations but through glances, pauses, innuendo masked as banter. Desire is lawless. It asks no permission. And to access it, one must abandon logic, discard the need for validation, and step into the realm of suggestion. To master desire is to learn to provoke without touch, to suggest without words, to stir profound emotions with subtle actions. It feels like magic, but it is method. It feels like instinct, but it is precision. And it often begins with a break in predictability. A deviation in the expected. A dissonance that jolts her emotional mind like a silent alarm whispering, "There's something here I can't decode. And that is why I want it." Sexual tension is not built in bed. It is built between the lines of conversation that seems innocent but is deliberately crafted to trigger sensations, imagery, anticipation. Philosopher Ortega y Gasset once said that surrender is born of fascination. In this context, fascination is simply another word for expertly managed tension. To fascinate a woman is not to impress her. It is to draw her into a world where her mind does the work, imagining scenes she'd never dare say aloud. This is not about pickup lines or cheap tricks. It's a blueprint. A map for building sexual tension using strategic, psychological, and primal intelligence. We'll break down how a phrase becomes a spark, how a glance becomes an anchor, how every gesture becomes a trigger. You'll learn why saying less and implying more is the cornerstone of desire. Forget everything you think you know. This is not about seduction as performance. It's about seduction as language, a silent one. Subtext is king. What you say matters less than how you say it. And even that matters less than what she imagines you meant. The woman who hears the unsaid becomes part of the story. And seduction becomes shared authorship. To wield this power, you must master sensory vocabulary, temptation, tease, sin, delight. Spoken slowly, playfully, with a glint in your eye, they turn conversations into foreplay. Even if she laughs, even if she denies it, she felt it. And that is enough. The difference between the seducer and the needy is simple. The seducer never says it all. He lets her mind complete the puzzle. And in that completion, she falls. Touch is a language too, and most men fail to speak it. Touch isn't placement. It's permission. It's a question asked with the fingertips. And if asked too soon, the answer will be no. Timing is everything. You talk, she laughs. You touch her arm. If she stays, the door opens. If she touches you back, it's wide open. But if she pulls away, shifts her posture, plays with her hair as she moves, the timing is wrong. Touch now would be perceived as grasping. And neediness? It kills tension faster than rejection. Letitia illustrates this through the silent dismissal, the hair adjustment that doubles as an escape. Subtle, but final. The touch is not rejected. It's disconnected. And every failed gesture after is another wall. But if she accepts, amplifies, interlocks fingers, compares hand sizes, then the touch is not an invitation. It's a demand. It's when the tension turns to chemistry. And if you hesitate here, you break the spell. Because hesitation at this stage reads as insecurity. And insecurity is death to desire. That's why escalation matters. It begins with atmosphere. Then glance. Then word. Then pause. Then touch. And finally, fusion. All without ever speaking of touch. Because the body, hers and yours, is already speaking. The greatest paradox? The less you try to touch, the more you are touched. Because true touch is earned by the weight of unspoken desire. Not imposed. It must feel like consequence. Like destiny. And so we arrive at the dance of control. Who leads, who follows? Who tests, who consents? The master seducer dances without stepping. He suggests. He adapts. He studies the body as terrain. And only one who maps it can pass without trespassing. As Merleau-Ponty said, the body is the expression of the soul. It reveals everything. Discomfort. Curiosity. Longing. The man who cannot read these signs is playing blind. Seduction is less about speech than space. Less about action than anticipation. A real seducer doesn't sit too close or too far. He doesn't react too fast. He lets her come closer. Slowly. Because each inch she crosses is another knot in the thread of tension, and when the touch finally arrives, he doesn't mark it as conquest. He treats it as passage. As a deepening. Because he doesn't want the touch. He wants the surrender. Surrender comes when the woman believes she still holds the reins, even though he has conducted the entire rhythm from the first glance. The female brain is an interpretation engine, constantly scanning for meaning, intentions, threats, and possibilities. And it's within that silent storm that the true seducer plants the seed of desire. Not through statements, but through emotional riddles. When you say, "This dessert is turning me on," you're not talking about sex, and yet you are. Her mind catches it. That's the point. You're teasing without declaration. You're activating her imagination with emotional ambiguity, the most powerful trigger of all. Direct compliments do not birth tension. Disguised compliments do. Don't say, "You look stunning." Instead say, with a smirk, "You should really stop being such a distraction." It's not the words, it's the mental image they evoke. This is applied psychology. The female brain links sensory words to physical sensations. Say, "delicious," "temptation," "sinful," and you're not being crude, you're stimulating the very part of her brain that responds to touch, scent, memory, arousal. Used out of context, these words become weapons. You're drinking something ordinary. You glance at her and murmur, "This one's turning me on a little." Ironic, effortless, and yet engineered. You're not testing the drink. You're testing her response. If she smiles, looks down, bites her lip, the fuse is lit. That subtle signal is everything. This is where the concept of layered intention comes in. You never communicate one thing. On the surface, it's harmless. Beneath, it's electric. When executed well, even the most innocent dialogue becomes a playground for tension. This isn't manipulation. This is orchestration. Most men speak too literally. They want to be understood. They fear rejection. But true desire is born not in clarity, but in mystery. Seduction is not a clear statement. It's a suspended possibility. It's a hall of mirrors, a spiral of interpretations. And while you're trying to be obvious, she's looking for complexity. Because what makes her want you is not what you say. It's what you masterfully withhold. Cleopatra, the legendary seductress, never overplayed her hand. She was mystery incarnate. Philosopher Plutarch described her voice as a multi-stringed instrument. She modulated tone with mesmerizing effect. This is the template, not directness, but layered melody. Words with undertones. Pauses pregnant with meaning. It's in those silences that her imagination dances. Imagine two men. One says, "You're sexy." The other pauses mid-sip and mutters, "This taste reminds me of something, never mind." Which one triggers the mind? The first declares. The second invokes. And that's who she'll remember, the one who left the page unturned. Letitia Felisberto tells of a glass of orange juice that became charged with erotic memory. Not because of what was said, but what was hinted at. That's the secret. And that rhythm? It lives in the voice. And in the gaze, voice is not sound. It's vibration. It travels through skin and memory. Studies show that slow, deep, rhythmic voices activate the female limbic system. Why? Because they signal composure, control, presence. But the real magic lies in variation. In the whisper mid-sentence. In the pause. In the silence that forces her to imagine the rest. "You can't imagine what just went through my head," you say, and stop. Her mind races. Because ambiguity is more arousing than any confession, but the voice is the bow. The gaze is the arrow, the right gaze is not forced. It lands, holds, deepens. It interrupts time. Not desperate, not searching. Present. It says, "I see you." Not your body. You. And when a woman feels seen like this, she opens. Combine this with timing. With silence. With rhythm. And you become not a man, but an atmosphere, and the seducer who commands atmosphere never rushes to speak, to touch, or to close. He doesn't convince. He evokes. He doesn't seek attention. He creates gravity. That is power. And that power is learnable. If you're ready to not just understand it, but to wield it, then welcome to the Forbidden Manual, How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds. Not a script. A reprogramming. A psychological arsenal. A dismantling of every false idea you've ever absorbed about attraction, vulnerability, masculinity. You won't learn what to say. You'll learn how to be. This is your key point: one glance. One phrase. One perfectly timed silence. And she won't know what hit her, because she'll feel it, before she ever understands it.